The Korean War, a brutal conflict that raged from 1950 to 1953, is often referred to as the Forgotten War, particularly in the Western world. This is not because of its lack of significance. The war had a profound impact on global geopolitics and the lives of millions. Rather, its placement in history, sandwiched between the colossal conflicts of World War II and the emotionally charged Vietnam War, has led to its relative obscurity in the public consciousness. World War II, with its global scale and horrific atrocities, left an indelible mark on the world. It was a defining moment in human history, and its shadow loomed large over the following decades. Similarly, the Vietnam War, with its controversial nature and enduring impact on American society, has continued to captivate historians and the public alike. The Korean War, while equally significant in its own right, has not received the same level of attention. This is a disservice to the millions of people who endured its hardships, the soldiers who fought bravely on both sides, and the complex historical forces that led to its eruption. Understanding the Korean War and its forgotten status is crucial for comprehending the complexities of the Cold War and its enduring legacy in the 21st century. The Korean War serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of ideological conflict and the long-lasting consequences of war. It is a conflict that deserves to be remembered, not only for the sacrifices made, but also for the lessons it holds for future generations. To truly understand the Korean War, one must first delve into the historical context that led to its outbreak. Korea, a nation with a rich history and distinct cultural identity, found itself at the heart of geopolitical tensions following the Second World War. After enduring decades of Japanese colonial rule, Korea was finally liberated in 1945 with the defeat of Japan in World War II. However, liberation did not bring about the unity and independence that the Korean people had long yearned for. Instead, their nation became a pawn in the emerging Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. In the closing days of World War II, the Allied powers agreed to divide Korea into two zones of occupation along the 38th parallel. The Soviet Union would administer the north, while the United States would oversee the south. This division, initially intended as a temporary measure to facilitate the surrender of Japanese forces, quickly solidified into a permanent partition. The division of Korea along the 38th parallel was not based on historical, cultural, or ethnic considerations. It was a purely arbitrary line drawn on a map by distant superpowers, dividing a nation and its people. This artificial division would have profound consequences for the Korean people, setting the stage for decades of division, conflict, and suffering. The division of Korea was a tragedy for the Korean people, but it also had far-reaching implications for the broader international order. It marked the beginning of the Cold War's encroachment into Asia, transforming the Korean peninsula into a battleground for ideological conflict between the two superpowers. The division of Korea along the 38th parallel did more than just geographically separate the peninsula. It also cleaved it along ideological lines, setting the stage for a clash of ideologies that would erupt into full-blown war. In the north, Kim Il-sung, a communist guerrilla leader backed by the Soviet Union, emerged as the supreme leader. Kim, a fervent nationalist and communist ideologue, sought to establish a totalitarian state modeled after Stalin's Soviet Union. Under Kim Il-sung's iron-fisted rule, North Korea underwent a rapid transformation. Private property was abolished, industries were nationalized, and a cult of personality centered around Kim was ruthlessly enforced. The North Korean government, with Soviet assistance, embarked on an ambitious program of industrialization and militarization, aiming to build a powerful state capable of unifying the peninsula under communist rule. In the south, Syngman Rhee, a staunch anti-communist politician who had spent years in exile, was installed as president with the backing of the United States. Rhee, an authoritarian figure in his own right, suppressed political opposition and sought to establish a one-party state. Unlike the North, however, South Korea maintained a market economy and received substantial economic and military aid from the United States. The ideological divide between North and South Korea was stark and seemingly irreconcilable. Kim Il-sung's communist North Korea, with its emphasis on self-reliance, centralized planning, and the suppression of individual liberties, stood in stark contrast to Syngman Rhee's capitalist South Korea, which, despite its authoritarian tendencies, allowed for greater economic and personal freedoms. This ideological chasm, fueled by Cold War tensions and the ambitions of both Korean leaders, created a volatile situation on the Korean peninsula, making war almost inevitable. The ideological conflict between North and South Korea was not merely an abstract battle of ideas, it had a profound impact on the lives of the Korean people. Families were divided, communities were torn apart, and the Korean peninsula was transformed into a focal point of global tensions. On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel, marking the start of the Korean War. This sudden invasion caught the world by surprise, leading to a swift and decisive response from the international community. Within days, the United Nations called for an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of North Korean troops. However, the conflict quickly escalated into a full-scale war, drawing in forces from around the globe. The United Nations played a crucial role during the Korean War, marking one of the first major tests of the newly formed organization. Member nations rallied to form a coalition force under the UN flag, aiming to repel the North Korean invasion and restore peace. This collective effort showcased the potential of international cooperation, even amidst the tensions of the Cold War. The global stage was set for a complex and multifaceted conflict that would shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. After 3 years of intense fighting, an armistice was signed on July 27, 1953. This agreement effectively ended the active combat, but it did not bring about a formal peace treaty. The Korean peninsula remained divided along the 38th parallel, with a heavily fortified, demilitarized zone separating the north and south. The aftermath of the war left deep scars, both physically and emotionally, on the Korean people. The armistice marked the beginning of a tense and uneasy peace that continues to this day. The Korean War's legacy is profound and far-reaching. It solidified the division of Korea into two distinct nations, each with its own political and economic systems. The conflict also set the stage for future Cold War confrontations, influencing US foreign policy and military strategy for decades. Moreover, the war highlighted the importance of international alliances and the role of the United Nations in maintaining global peace and security. Even now, the echoes of the Korean War resonate, reminding us of the enduring impact of this pivotal conflict.